Good evening, guys, and welcome to another BTWN vidcast. This one's a very special one as we've got a guest on at the moment, and he's a guest from Spooky Isles, David Saunderson, who I have to admit has a fantastic accent. So much better than what me and Kurt can pull out, I can tell you that much. Kurt's an ex-punk rocker, and I'm from Liverpool, so that's horrendous. But we're going to get to you in a second, David. So, very first one, Kurt, how have you been this week?
Minus what I told you that I can't speak on air about. That was interesting today. I just had an interesting day. And then when I got out of the building,
yes,
I'm driving home, and parked right next to me is a big dump truck, as we like to say in America, with a trailer behind it with a deer with no head. So I was like right next to it. So I sent it to Mo immediately.
Yeah.
And basically, my week's just been, I'm just shocked today. Usually I'm not jacked, but today is just, for some reason, tiring. I don't know why. I didn't do anything today. How about you? What's your week been like?
My week's been involved with me ripping components for electronics to total pieces. For anybody who has anything to do with the paranormal, you may remember something called the Skull Experiment. Now, the Skull Experiment, a fantastic experiment done in the mid to late 90s, and it was with regards to people, like a group of people in a place called Skull, who got together and went through a series of experiments, and they were incredibly successful what they pulled. I'm not 100% on the entire belief of the entire Skull Experiment, but one part of it was quite interesting, which was an electronic device which they devised called the Edison's, I think it's called the TDC device. Basically uses two coils, a piece of what's called germanium, and a signal's carried through it. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Looks brilliant, looks like something that just fell out of the Victorian era. So I've been spending my week researching building one. I just don't know how it's going to go yet, unfortunately. Knowing my luck, I'll get half built, and I'll totally forget about it like I normally do with everything. Everything from the Connect to the thermal cameras, everything gets backburned. So that's where I've been. If anybody wants to pay more attention to that, if you just check our Facebook page out, be on the White Noise Paranormal Facebook page, you'll see half-built projects throughout the next 25 years of me wasting my time doing it. So that's where I am now. Let's move swiftly on to speak to an incredible individual who is David Saunderson from SpookyIsles.com. So welcome to the show, David.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Kurt. It's great to be here. Still getting a bit of a handle on this whole Hangouts. I've never used it before, so if I look a bit strange at times or I sound a bit strange, please forgive me.
Right, David, don't worry about feeling strange or looking strange on the camera. Believe me, when me and Kurt are on here, guests shine compared to us. Oh, God dear me. So, nevertheless, right, so you actually run something called SpookyIsles.co.uk?
That's it's actually SpookyIsles.com.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, no, it's actually coming up to its 7th birthday next week on the 15th of November. Will have been around for 7 years. So it just sort of occurred to me today that it's been around a quite a long time. And the whole premise of the Spooky Isles, it's just based on British and Irish horror, ghosts, and folklore. And there's a lot of websites out there that are, do everything, and we try to focus more just on British stuff and Irish stuff, and that's why we call it the Spooky Isles, as in the British Isles, but they're spooky.
Well, they literally are. I mean, I've spoke to many a guest from America. We spoke to one in Australia as well. Have always said they wish that they had the history and the folklore that Britain has. We go to places like, I don't know if you must have spent time at some point in your life in York, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been to York quite a few times. So yeah,
it's like a second home for me. It's the same there. I love it.
Yeah, and it's got such wonderful history. You've got history from the Vikings, the current era. I mean, it's a walled city, so it's fabulous as far as just even if you just go there to look at the architecture. But yeah, no, it is definitely one of the most haunted cities in Britain.
By far. I absolutely love the place. And I mean, you don't get that in other parts of the world. You don't get that everywhere else. I mean, you can go to Germany, and don't get me wrong, it's a gorgeous place. Europe, a lot of it is a gorgeous place. But for some reason, it's just a little bit darker in some of the dark places in Britain. I love it for that purpose. Mm-hmm. Now, as a little confession to you, your SpookyIsles.com, when I first decided to actually put a little bit more effort into the paranormal, your site was the one that I went to. I remember it initially getting released, I'm sure of it. And I used to spend my time flitting between Spooky Isles, Facebook, inexplicado.com, and I used to just go and read what was going on. And that's when I started getting a grasp on what was in the paranormal. So I owe a lot of this to you. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, we've always tried to be quite, in depth in our, it's not just about the folklore and about some of the spooky stories, but the research stuff. We have a lot of how-to type of stuff in there. If there is everyone has a different opinion about how you should do paranormal investigations, and I don't really think there's any right way of doing it. But we try to, give some people some information, and because at the end of the day, it's going to be fun. But people do have definite views about how you should be investigating the paranormal.
Of course, no.
Yeah.
What kind of? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just a quick question. What kind of feedback do you get from a lot of people? I know you got a lot of contributors and all that. But what kind of feedback do you get? I mean, are some people like always in disagreement about one person, or one contributor's idea or another, or is it usually pretty much just solid all around?
Well, I mean, I know that there's a lot of when we had an article not long ago about paranormal bullying, and for some reason there is quite a lot of when there's trolls all over the internet, isn't there? And it wouldn't matter. I imagine if we were talking about ice cream vans or children's dolls, there'd be people bagging on other people. So in paranormal, there's obviously a lot of disagreement, and there's some not very nice people out there. But I've always, from the day one, I don't want that kind of crap. There's just no call for it. This is about fun. This is no one's real jobs. We all have our own proper jobs, if you want to call them, elsewhere. So, and I mean, by and large, it's people's opinion, and it's history really at the same time that what we're doing. And unless it's wrong, which actually is factually wrong, as in if we say something happened in some year and it didn't happen, it happened another year, there's not really much to argue about, and I don't really tend to go into that kind of stuff about, who's right and who's wrong. We have had controversies in the past. I don't want to really go into those because, it just feeds the trolls. But by and large, I'm looking for an easy life. I don't like great arguments about things, and it's about fun. And it's not the place. I'm sure there's forums out there to get Tic Tacs, but some of you'll find some of the people that have the most severe opinions about something have the craziest. So are you going to get upset about someone having a go at you when you read other opinions they have about stuff? You wouldn't walk past them in the street without looking weird. So why would I care about what they say about me on the internet? So
there's a technical term which has been used in the past. It's called keyboard warriors, and what it is, it's somebody who is well versed in ripping somebody to pieces, and it happens quite a lot, as you say, in the paranormal field, where they'll use a keyboard because they're separated between a screen and a network from this person. Now, Yvette Fielding just done an interview, and I know a lot of people have got a lot of dislike and dislove for Most Haunted, but Yvette Fielding had an interview on Absolute Radio on Halloween, and in the interview she said to the interviewer, the guy said to her, "So you're a paranormal expert, aren't you?" And she went, "No, I'm not. There's no such thing. How can anybody be an expert for something that they can't physically see?" She went, "I investigate and research. That does not make me an expert." And that was the one thing I pulled from all of everything I've ever heard from Most Haunted. That's the one thing I pulled and thought, you know what, well played and well said. There is no experts. We're just all trying to pool in with information, and hopefully at the end, if we have an end result, then fantastic. If we don't get an end result, then we're all entitled to an opinion. So I 100% agree with you. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and there's no need for the fighting. No, definitely isn't.
And we can't measure it, a lot of the things that we're looking for. So if you can't measure something, and if you've got people that are using their own, mediumship or whatever the word is for that, if you can't measure that, how can you be an expert on it? It's just, to me, it doesn't make sense. But you can tell if an area, there's something going on weird. We all know that we've been in areas that people can't account for the strangeness in feeling, smell, sound, sight, whatever that might be. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in going into places and maybe trying to find out what is going on there. I reckon 98% of the time it's probably nothing. But, that 2%, I mean, you would spend a night looking for a 2%, wouldn't you? Because it is so magnificent.
Now, I've been on investigations with I used to run a team. And in my team, I remember going on an investigation in an abandoned hospital in Wales. And I agree I shouldn't have been there. When I say abandoned hospital, it was literally an abandoned hospital. Yeah. And I was with 2 ex-military, and they could not wait to get out of there. Both of them are trained military. Both of them know what to do, and both of them can protect each other. They can protect themselves. They can protect us. They actually did at one point. But my God, they couldn't wait to get out of there. So it doesn't matter how big or how strong you are. Some places you go, you know you shouldn't be there, and there's nothing you can say. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Do you work alongside a team?
No, we don't. I often get invited with other teams to go on to investigations.
Right.
I don't really. I mean, my thing is the Spooky Isles. I've been with the Ghost Club, which is one of the original, the oldest paranormal organisation in the world, and I've been on the board of that for a short period, and but that's the closest I've come to anything organised. I run events. I'm more about listening to speakers, organising people to come along and have debates and talks, because I find that more fun. I'd rather do that than spend time. It's actually quite difficult, and as you've said, I wouldn't obviously endorse anyone going into abandoned properties or doing anything, like trespass. But it's really quite difficult to find good properties to investigate, and I just couldn't. I'd rather go out with someone who's done it themselves, and I'll go with them. I don't particularly like the paid for events. Where you pay to go on an event, because I see that as a sideshow or a carnival more than an investigation. Nothing wrong with them, but I just don't. It's just not for me. I'm going out to one in North London in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm at a school, which we can't talk about. We've got permission to go.
What group are you going out with?
I'm going out with it's Mickey Go Cool and North London Paranormal, but I'm not really going to say what it is, because they've said not to say. And but I go out with a couple of different groups at times. I find it fun. It's interesting. Interesting one about this is going to actually be during the daytime, because we're exploring the idea that it doesn't have to be the night time to investigate.
No. Do you know what? I agree 100%, and it's about time somebody's pointed that out. A lot of paranormal investigation is looking at shadows, it's looking in the darkness, and you eventually see something. A lot of it can be pareidolia, I think it's called. A lot of it can be something you can see on matrixing. And in the daytime, if you can pick it up at nighttime, you can pick it up at daytime. So that's a very good way of looking at that.
Yeah, I think the one thing you might get at night time, and I've always thought was really, I remember the first episode of Most Haunted, and I forget the fella's name. It doesn't matter anyway. And he said it was better to do investigations at the night time. And I just can't see any kind of reason for that, other than it's quieter. I can't see a reason why, if there's any kind of why do ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them, how are they affected by where the Earth is in comparison to the sun? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a science in that, but I just think it makes more sense to do stuff during the daytime if you can, because when you're more awake, you can actually talk about it afterwards. I just think you're more awake, aren't you? Because if you sleep all day and then you go out, I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me anyway. And being here in London, I live in central London, and going out and coming back at all times of the night does not sound that great to me. It might be all right out in Liverpool and doing stuff in America, but I don't want to go out in the middle of the night if I don't have to.
America, you're not good, and that's the best thing about the UK is the history. As we, David, is like the pure history of the UK just dwarfs anything that we have in the US. I'll be straight to the point. I work at a museum that supposedly is haunted, and yes, I've had some weird experiences, but nothing over the top. But I agree. I have to agree with what you and Mo said about that.
No, I you know what? For once, care for you to agree with me. There must be something wrong. I'm really concerned on this one. To be fair. Now, so moving on to SpookyIsles.com. Now, you do get a lot of reports which come through to you, and you've got a lot of people who report with you. Do any of the reports that you've had in the past, do any of them stick out for you? Is there any which you've sat there and gone, wow?
Not really. They're the ones you kind of expect when people say that something's going on and something's going in the house. The one that I found the funniest, I'm not going to go too much into it, because I just found it very amusing, because the person put their name on it was more about who the person was, and they said they were a model. This is just, this person had like a knock on the house or something and thought it was a ghost or something. What it was, it's a fairly bland, haunting type thing. But essentially, she was a topless porn model, and I looked her up, and it was her. So I thought that was a bit interesting, But
first things first, we need to word it very carefully when you say you looked her up. Okay.
I looked her up on the net.
Look,
and I verified that was her, and that was the music. But that's not really about the paranormal bit. But she was just yeah. Anyway, that was but that's about the biggest standout one. I mean, over the years, I've read some stories from our own correspondents, which are really cool. Eddie Brazil, who's a quite a well-known author and who's written lots of books and is a great expert on Borley Rectory. He often writes for us, and he does some great stories from South London, and he gives some great evidence. And some of the stuff coming out of Ireland and Scotland and stuff like that. When you trust a person and you've worked with them for a while, when they say something to you, you tend to believe them. It's a bit harder when someone emails you and said, look, I've seen something, I think it's this. You don't know who they are. They could be making it up. There's just nothing to it. But when you actually know someone and trust someone, I think that's probably the good thing about working with a team, which I don't get because I don't work with a team, but you know that yourself, that if you could trust a person, that's what, you might as well be there yourself, because you know the way they react, and there's no BS.
Yes, no, I wholeheartedly agree. We've had members on our team in the past which they've been, I'd like to say, I believe they stretched the truth on more than one occasion, and we've asked them to leave the team. This was about 2 or 3 years ago, and this individual kept stretching and embellishing, and we said, no, it's done. You're going to have to move on for that purpose. But sometimes you've got to do it. Sometimes it's sad, because it's horrible. It's not like where the paranormal's concerned. People believe when you first go in, it's going to be fun. You're going to go in there, you're going to point a torch into the distance, you're going to see something, it's going to be impressive. 90% of the time you're sitting there with a cup of coffee in the darkness, total quiet, listening for the noise or watching a camera screen. It's not as fun as we initially thought it was, to be brutally honest with you.
There's nothing exciting about paranormal, when you're out there. I mean, it's a bit cool walk. I went to Fulham Palace once, which is in London, and it's a beautiful, beautiful old building, and we were doing an investigation in there. And the best thing about that was basically getting access to like an historic building where, if you'd have been there during the daytime, it would have been crowded. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it. But sitting there for like 8 hours, staring at a wall, waiting for anything, it's not most haunted where there's bips and blips and whatever, And that's one of the things where people are always criticizing TV shows for supposedly embellishing what goes on, but they wouldn't last for a day. They wouldn't be come back for episode 2 if there wasn't something going on, because it's just, I don't know, it'd be like doing you've got these like TV shows where they do up cars, or they do whatever, just say it's a car show and we're doing up cars. Now, if they just watch that person fix the engine for 8 hours, it wouldn't be a TV show, would it? So it's basically the fatal flaw in paranormal television is you cannot do a genuine paranormal TV show because it would be dull.
Now, we've, just to give you just to clarify and to back up what you've said there, we've interviewed 2 people who are involved with paranormal shows on the television, actively involved, and both of them off air have said to us exactly the same thing, that they've been asked to make the shows more interesting, and when they've said, can you elaborate a little bit further on what you mean, they've said, we need the shows to be a little bit more interesting. So basically saying, can you do us a favor, tap the door with your foot or make the noise yourself?
I'm sorry.
No, go on, Kate, you're okay, mate.
I was just saying, I'm remembering back to a couple of those shows that we discussed it, were like, one guy stated, and we can't say names, of course. One guy stated, I asked the guy, where do you get the ability to go, and why is everything so haunted everywhere you go? He goes, availability of the place, and he was on a big show. And basically, a lot of those guys say it's just TV. Yeah, I mean, we've had that. What they say, it's just TV.
Just blatant. It's literally just entertainment and nothing else, and that's the sad part. But in the same breath, though, I mean, for you to get access to go to some places like Fulham Palace, that's fantastic. I'd love to do that. I'd love to be able to just go to places like that without having to do it the hard way. But I guess it's where you sit on a perspective. I mean, you run a very successful website. You've got the access to that. That's brilliant. Now, Chronicle, you just need to take.
There is. I mean, it is exciting getting into different places, but it's hard work, and it's also, I I think you could probably do it anywhere. I think you've got to learn the skills. While it's nice doing in historic palaces and castles and stuff like that, you know, I did a walking tour with Patsy Sorrenti, who's a paranormal investigator medium. She's based down in West London, and she did a sort of a walking tour. She does walking tours of Middlesex, which is sort of like the north-south, sort of like the circle of London, sort of West London. And she was showing us, you know, stories of hauntings, but she was pointing to council houses, just normal houses that you're living in now, and you know, telling us, you know, I don't want to say terrible stories, but, you know, proper, you know, wicked, horrible things that happen in these houses and what's happened since, and how their people do see what we would class as ghosts. Now, they're not kings, they're not, you know, headless monks or headless horsemen or anything like that. They're just whatever. So if you remember, we talk about like Enfield Poltergeist. That's supposedly some old bloke in a council house. So they don't need to be in the Tower of London to be a haunting. So I mean, I think, you know, but of course you can't get into people's houses. So that's why I always think, like with pubs, I do a lot of events with pubs, and I find that they're easy ones because they're, one, you could get in them because they're public, obviously, and they've got really great history. Like you look at something like the Grenadier in Belgravia, which is in you know, it's a very posh part of London, and it's got a story. And I don't know if you know about the Grenadier, but I'll tell you anyway. Supposedly it's right near the army barracks, and it was around the time of the sort of like, you know, Waterloo, you know, the Napoleonic Wars, where not Nelson, what's his name? The Duke of York, Wellington, the Duke of York, and his sort of troops were there or whatever. And there was one young lieutenant who was cheating at cards, and apparently they gave him a bit of a biff up and threw him down the stairs, and he died. Yeah, apparently he'd been pinching money from them or something like that. Anyway, by the by, it's supposedly haunted now, and people actually leave money at the pub where, you know, they put up on the. So if you walk in there, there's cash all over the ceiling, American dollars, whatever, they're all up there. It's quite nice because a lot of the pubs you hear and a lot of things would say, oh, that's haunted, that's haunted, that's haunted. There's no evidence. Well, when I'm saying there's no evidence, it could just be any pub. Whereas at least the Grenadier has something like, I could see that. I might not see a ghost, but I could at least see the social effect of them being a ghost there, that people are actually putting notes up on the ceiling. So I think that, you know, when people sort of like get really excited about, oh, you know, the Tower of London or different palaces and things like that, I think go to a pub. I would go to, if I was going to a place like America and I was going to I imagine, like, you know, in, you know, Baltimore, anywhere near Washington, you know, up in sort of, you know, the, you know, New England places, they're as old as some of these pubs. You know, they're from the 1600s, some of these places, you know, and some of these pubs here, they say they're like the Volunteers in Baker Street. It's only a couple of doors down from where Sherlock Holmes, you know, supposedly lives. You know, it's a fictional character, but it's in that area. And I mean, the building that's there now that's supposedly haunted is not the haunted part. It's the basement, which has been, you know, rebuilt over. So, you know, that's a bit like saying a house is haunted because it's on a, I don't know, it's just the pipes underneath are haunted. So it's sort of like, you know, people always keep saying that America and Australia and, you know, everywhere else don't really have the history. Of course they don't, but they've still got old pubs. So, you know, and I think that, you know,
we still need the old pubs, and I'll give you that.
We do, and I want to go to lots of old pubs if I go to America. So, you know, I'll spend a lot of time. Quite willing to spend quite a lot of time there.
They're there. I mean, they're there, but more like go south or north of the DC area, like go up towards, like as you stated earlier, David, New England. I mean, you're going to find a lot there. Yeah. You know, I mean, but it's interesting how, going back to what you were saying when you saw the dollar bill was up there plus the pound note probably and all that. It kind of monetizes, you know, the whole paranormal thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, this was more of a souvenir. It's more of a souvenir. It was a souvenir, though.
Pubs, which is interesting.
Yeah. They're not making money off it. They're basically stuck on they're pinned on the thing. So, but I know what you're saying. It's just more of people write their little, you know, to whatever the name of the ghost is, you know, best wishes, love David, and they stick it on the wall there. So it's quite a bit of fun.
I think there's something weird, and I'll say it about money. There is something weird about, in my opinion, about hauntings and money. Now, there's places just outside of Liverpool. There's one called Hale, and there's a gentleman there called the Child of Hale, and he was about 9 foot tall when he died. He was only died in his early to late 20s. The town has never changed since the 1700s. It's got a few new houses, but there's still old buildings and old roads down there. And on his grave, you go there any given time, and there is piles of pennies. People just throw pennies on his grave, and it's been something that's been done for a very long time. So I don't know. It's kind of weird and macabre, like, but I don't know.
It's kind of cool. I think it's all right.
The church gets rich off it.
It's history. That's all, and that's a good thing, actually.
Yeah, it could be far worse. I'll definitely give you that. So, as I said, with regards to spookyhours.com, do you run have you got a Facebook group which is linked to it? Or
we do. It's all we've done quite well because we've been around for a while. So it's everything is basically Spooky Isles. So it's SPOOKY Isles, as in British Isles, ISLES. So the Facebook is facebook.com/Spooky Isles. One word. Same with Twitter /Spooky Isles. And we do that. We've got quite a good following on Facebook. We've got all our contributors on there. We're always looking for more contributors. If people are interested in writing for Spooky Owls, I'd really urge them to email me. They can email me at david@spookyowls.com. We're always looking for more people to be involved, and I think that's been our success, is because we're so open to people getting involved. We love people developing their writing skills, telling their stories, promoting their paranormal groups. We also do horror films and stuff like that. So it's not just about ghosts, it's about the whole range of entertainment here in Britain for horror, because I don't think you really can separate some of the old ghost stories of, say, M.R. James and the paranormal, or the work of Arthur Conan Doyle, or Bram Stoker with Dracula. It's all connected. It's just in our blood here. About we love this stuff, and that's why I think that the Spooky House has been so successful over the last 6 years.
No, and you know what? Right? I know for a fact it's going to be as incredible. It's going to be more successful than it's been so far. It's done professionally. The site's ran professionally. For anybody who hasn't seen what I'm talking about, link will be up in this corner here. Go to the website. Obviously, wait until after the show if you don't mind. Go to the website, have a little rip around, and also get onto his Facebook group as well. Get onto Twitter. However, stick to the website. I like the website. It's done properly. Believe me, I can my website because I didn't think it was anywhere near done properly. So, well played. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you for Mo. That's very nice of you.
You're very welcome. Right, guys, that was David Saunderson from spookyhours.com. Absolutely fantastic guy. I really enjoyed speaking to him. It's nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody about the broader side of paranormal. It's not always about pointing a torch into the dark. It's not always about whether you want to sit there and stare at a computer screen for 8 hours per video feed on a CCTV system. Sometimes it is about the person telling you, listen, this has happened, or having these conversations with people who've experienced stuff. I can tell you I've experienced stuff. Whether you believe me or you don't believe me, then that's by the wayside. The same with you guys out there. Some of you guys would have seen stuff. If you did see stuff, or if there's anything you ever wanted to bring up, message us. If you want us to talk about it on the show, that's fine. If you just want to tell us what's gone on, that's also fine. But listen, thank you very much to everybody who's watched. David had to get off it. Thank you for writing.
Please don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, God, yeah. Consider subscribing. Definitely consider liking the video. Don't like me. Don't like Kurt. There's nothing likable about us. We're kind of
just still subscribe anyway.
I've got this stuff going on at the moment.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, Kurt's right. Kurt's weird. I'm not. I mean, I'm like the pinnacle of normal, ish. However, guys, thank you very much, and no doubt we're going to catch you next week. Next week we're going to be talking about the weird and wonderful world of ufology. Okay, just leave that with you. Bye, guys.